you here like to eat? Let me see a show of hands. How many are?
I love to eat.
No more of you like to eat here. Okay. Well, we have a treat for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Enriched Food Corporation. Now, we would like your money to, we would like you guys to invest in our current project, the Super Pot project. No, I'm not talking about that super pot. I'm talking about potatoes, okay?
We at Enriched Food Corporation strive to make ourselves better by asking 3 fundamental questions. The first question is, how can we make ourselves useful to society? And the second question is, how can we expand our company's reach? Now, through extensive research, we have found some interesting facts.
Did you guys know that every 3.6 seconds someone dies because of hunger? It is estimated that some 800 million people are suffering from malnutrition and hunger. To satisfy the world's sanitation and food requirements would only take $13 billion. This amount of money is actually how much the US and the European Union spend on perfume each year. Half of all children under 5 years old in South Asia and 1/3 in sub-Saharan Africa suffering from malnutrition and hunger. Malnutrition is actually the cause of half of children's deaths worldwide. And this proportion is unmatched to any infectious disease other than Black Death. The World Health Organization estimates that 1/3 of the world is well-fed, 1/3 is underfed, and 1/3 is in starvation. 3 billion people in the world struggle to survive on $2 US per day, while 1.3 billion struggle to survive on 1.3 billion per day, which is actually 1 in 4 people. In Asia, Africa, and Latin America, well over 300 million people are living in what the World Health Organization terms as absolute poverty. Each year, 15 million children die because of hunger.
So, our last question is, how do we become an international tool in the fight against world hunger? With that being said, it led us to our mission statement. Our mission at Enriched Food Corporation, we strive to better the health and lives of people. Now, with people, we're talking about impoverished people, elderly people, children, and regular people. In order to do this, we are pursuing this through innovation and distribution. Through innovation, we are bringing the best scientists from around the world together in order to create new possibilities and solutions. We go further than just the product development by including health benefits, ensuring the company is being environmentally sustainable, and finding ways to make our product more accessible to people on the go. Distribution, we plan to have distribution centers throughout the U.S., and not only the U.S., we plan to expand internationally. We want to make sure that our potatoes are provided to soldiers that don't have the access to daily nutritional requirements, and also to impoverished lands that don't have the nutritional requirements in order to sustain a healthy lifestyle.
So did you guys know that a person can survive on potatoes and milk alone? Milk, butter, or other dairy products. But overall, the potato in itself is already a superfood. The only exception is that it lacks vitamins A and D. Did you know that the potato also consists of 45% of your daily vitamin C needs? Well, we want to amplify that to 100%. And we want to add vitamins A and D to this potato as well. But first of all, why do we choose a potato? Well, the potato is a very low maintenance vegetable. When you transport it, you don't need special trucks with refrigeration or anything like that. It's a very, very low maintenance, and it doesn't bruise as easily as various fruits. It doesn't have leafy appendages that can be broken. So that's why our ideal vegetable to start with potato.
Okay, and you might be wondering, why can't I just take a multivitamin? Well, you could, but most of the vitamins that are contained in multivitamins actually interact with each other Some of them will inhibit absorption of one another. So you could break it down into a 3-a-day multivitamin, but multivitamins are like $12 a bottle. It gets pretty expensive. So our potatoes, all of the vitamins that are contained in our potatoes are biosynthesized. They're not made in a laboratory. They're all provided by the potato, and they're already in there. This is showing you what is contained in the potato right now, what you need every day to stay healthy, and what the upper limits are. For upper limits, that's generally if you're taking supplements, because if you take too much of an elemental form of a supplement, you could end up having stomach problems, liver problems, you could die from that. Like, not to take too many Flintstone vitamins because that can kill you. That happens all the time. Like, little kids will have liver failure. But if you take too many, you can't overdose on vitamins from eating too much spinach. So that's why we decided to fortify potatoes, because it's a lot safer and a lot cheaper. So basically, we compared what's in a medium-sized raw potato and in our transgenic potato. We got about 100% for each vitamin that's already in it, and we basically amplified what was already in it. We looked at the metabolic pathways, how each vitamin is actually synthesized. For vitamin C, for example, we took the cytosolic form of dehydroascorbic reductase, and by amplifying expression of that, we actually made the potato produce more vitamin C. And it's a very simple change. We don't have to insert genes from any other plants, any other animals. It's not any of that scary Frankenfood stuff you hear about. It's all already in the potato. We're just amplifying it.
So in a nutshell, what we did was that we overexpressed the genes of the various vitamins that we want to add to the potato to meet our daily requirement. So when the gene were obtained, what we did is that we used reverse transcript PCR to amplify the RNA sample, and then from the wild potato. And then we use experiment to design it, and then also we use plasmid, which we call it a BBT 11B plasmid. It's a bacterial expression resistant plasmid. Then we use the vector to insert into the genome of the potato. Because they are the same genes, we just make it bigger to meet our daily requirement.
Okay, and the way we did that was we used this resource called GenBank to get express sequence tags for the potato, and using that we designed primers, and we used several genes to amplify all these vitamins and minerals. So that's why we chose the PET11D vector, because it could carry all that information we needed to deliver to the transgenic potato. So to confirm that everything went as planned, we identified the transgenes using PCR, and we verified that the genes were actually being expressed the way we wanted them to be using Western assay. And then we confirmed that gene activity was going the way it should be using enzyme assay.
I'm Christopher, and I'll be taking you through the quality assurance and quality control. We had 3 phases. 2 phases were internal to the company to make sure that what we were making has required nutritional needs and to make sure it's safe for consumption. Phase 3, of course, would be submitted to the FDA and the USDA. Next slide, please. The phase 1 methods: super potato was grown in a controlled environment along with a non-modified potato. We gave 164 super potatoes were chosen, along with 106 controlled potatoes. Out of that, they were all given serial numbers. They were paired randomly to each other for 40 total pairings. A 2-tailed paired t-test was performed to make sure that they were statistically different and that our potato was the best potato out of them all. From the data that we have, I have appendix somewhere, but we can say with a 95% confidence interval that what is represented in this graph is what potatoes that we grow will have per 100 grams of servings. Next slide, please. The amount of environments per slug were analyzed. Next slide, please. Phase 2 methods. We wanted to evaluate whether nutrients were available for uptake from primary consumers and whether any adverse health effects may occur. Being that this was like an early phase, we used mice According to the Louisiana Veteran Association, that mice need to eat about 50% of their body weight. So we fed one group of mice a regular potato, another group of mice 50% of their body weight of the super pot potato. The results from the next slide. Or slide for that. The control group at the conclusion of the study had a significant weight loss, whereas the group fed the diet of super pot potatoes held steady, the average weight change of 1.2 grams. At the conclusion of the study, the mice were evaluated for fitness. The control group showed signs of malnutrition and increased activity, whereas the experimental groups held steady with no signs of malnourishment or any change in activity. Here's the chart representing that. Next slide, please. Since we got those two out of the way, we're moving on to phase 3. We need to submit applications for the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, which falls under the USDA. We have to submit to them because they evaluate to make sure it doesn't become a weed. They measure the environmental impact should it, be released into the wild. Then we submit to the Food and Drug Administration, where it would be reviewed for safe for human consumption. And then the EPA, we didn't have any herbicidal pesticide genes into the super hot potatoes, so we don't worry about that. So next slide, please.
And now we all know that without funding, this could not be possible. And we would like to take the time to thank the USDA and the ICGEB for funding us. From the USDA, we've received a total of $75.5 million for our project, Super Pot project, and for the ICGEB, we received $100,000. And some of the things we used our funding for were for land, which is average for $1,000 per acre. For staffs, people don't work for free, unfortunately. And so for the biotechnology, like the plasmids and the mice, et cetera, et cetera.
Some of our future goals are continuing to partner with like international hunger associations to help with world hunger. We're also next slide. We'll also acquire like markets globally, so that'll make the international market a huge opportunity for us. We'll also be able to make diverse range of products set aside from the potato for appealing taste, and we'll also be able to work with growers to promote sustainable and eco-friendly farming practices. And then we'll also be able to become flexible and adaptable in economic, social, and environmental conditions to make the super potato long-term survival and continue to be a source of food for nutritional needs.
So while I understand that not everyone likes potatoes and that our research currently is centered around amplifying vitamins, including vitamins A and D as well, we understand that we want to broaden our taste in foods to various other vegetables and fruits and grains. So that's why we need your help in funding us and supporting our research to reach all these other people. We want to become internationally known. We want to help people out in other impoverished countries. So please support us. Thank you.
Questions?
Do they not already have genetically modified potatoes?
There have been studies done where they added vitamin C, or they amplified vitamin C, but they only got about 4-fold increase in it, so it was about 50% URDA. But it's really difficult to do it with other vitamins because they're, I guess the way that it's biosynthesized isn't completely understood, but we went on past research with synthesizing them in bacteria and we went from there. Like we know what genes synthesize phylloquinone, which is vitamin K. There's 2 vitamins for vitamin K. There's K1, K2. K1's found in plants, and we know that there are eubacterial genes, MENF, MEND, MENC, and MENH, and we know that they're responsible for creating vitamin K1. but that's never been done with potatoes or most plants, it's just bacterial work, so we drew from that.
Actually, there's only one, the second company, not in the United States, in India. What they did was they were able to add, increase the protein in potato. As a matter of fact, they used some grains and they added some AMI1 genes to increase the protein in potato. But as for vitamins, we are almost the first one.
So you're taking this idea and you're just advancing it.
Yes, because, and there's also golden rice, you might have heard of, where there is actually, vitamin A is found in the green parts of the rice plant, but not actually in the rice grains. So they made it so that the plant would actually express the genes needed to have vitamin A in the rice portion, which also made the rice kind of golden colored, that's why they call it golden rice. But there have been things done, but it's mostly focusing on just vitamin A, vitamin C, and they've tried with vitamin E, but it doesn't really contain much vitamin E. It's like 0.01 milligrams, so we didn't really do much of that.
One of the parts you had a chart saying this is the regular potato, and the other one was like I guess you said the amplified potato or the gal potato. Now for that one, see the amount of vitamins you guys are going to amplify, and a 7 to 100% is a dramatic increase. That's about 93% increase of vitamins. So you guys, how are you exactly amplifying each of these? So you.
Well, with niacin, that one is produced in the tryptophan degradation pathway. So basically, it's similar to the way that animals will synthesize it within their body, the way that plants like potatoes will do that. But if you keep promoters going, it'll keep producing the vitamin, like with ascorbic acid. If you keep the reductase, if more of that's being produced, then it's going to change the way that the production of the vitamin is regulated within the plant. So you can produce as much as you want, depending on how much reductase you're going to have to express.
An increase of this would mean an increase in any byproduct, right?
Increase what?
An increase in, like, you said,
What type of byproducts?
the reactions, you said that you're
Like
basically increasing the frequency of reactions that allow us to have the vitamins, allow the potato to have the vitamins, but are there any byproducts of that reaction?
In the reaction?
I mean, it already has those vitamins, and I don't really think it needs water and soil. I mean, you might have to use more enriched soils so it'd be able to have everything it needs, but basically just water, dirt, and sun.
Well, like, are there any adverse reactions to, you say that it doesn't usually have this much, so what happens when it does have this much? Because is there a reason why it doesn't have this much?
That's just
That's
way
how
it
it's made up.
Yeah.
That's how it's made up. It's not like
I mean,
because of this, a gene 10 or 10 on, no. It's just how it comes, and then we just amplify it to make it more.
there are like
By nature, it doesn't have this much, so
Right.
is there a
No plant's gonna
reason
have
why nature
100%
says,
of-
I don't want you to have this?
Yeah. I mean, there are some plants that are really high in a lot of vitamins, and they might need like a different temperate climate to grow in, but they don't really like. You might not be able to grow that same crop in the same space because it might be drying up a lot of nutrients. You might have to like rotate the crops that you're planting to prevent that from happening. But you don't really need special considerations for planting them. You can plant them as if they're regular potatoes.
So can you just say like, so all of these are already existing, it's just, I just don't see where they're existing for some of them, is it just such a small percentage, like a nanogram or something, that we can't see any?
Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
several micrograms and milligrams,
Okay.
it's very small.
Yeah, that's basically.
They were
You just
supposed to
say
be the
that
ones that were
they're-
Zero microliter?
It's just too small, that's why we run out.
I don't understand exactly how this is supposed to end world hunger. You're adding nutrients.
Well, that's our end
Because
goal.
potatoes can be grown. I mean, like you can grow them; they're pretty cheap, and like as far as like transporting them.
Get them to the people, like that's a whole.
I mean, that's the government's job right there. I mean, we're just providing the means that they can do it by. Because you have organizations like FEMA. I mean, this is like at home front right now.
And
And, you know, Yeah. There you go.
And this is also similar to the idea, you know, the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But this is similar to what we're doing, and a potato a day keeps hunger away. We understand that it takes a lot of resources to transport numerous amounts of food. So we want to compact it into something that's something natural versus like an energy bar or like my vitamins. We want all the nutrients to be naturally made in this potato, and then just eat
What
it.
about like the actual calories? Like,
And it's a good replacement. Well, and if you just click forward some,
Yeah, the
and it's a good
macro-
replacement for the high energy biscuit. If y'all know what that is, like in countries like go through natural disasters or civil unrest, you know, they provide high energy biscuits to starving people so they don't die. If they can even do that, this would be cheaper because you don't have to manufacture it. You can grow it, and then you can license it to the local subsistence farmers there. And granted that another government would have to pick up the tab on the licensing fee to actually grow the potatoes, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty, there's no shortage of money there.
And with this, you're not altering the macronutrients, just the micronutrients. So, like, it would be more calorically dense if we added fats to it, but that would sort of change what the potato was. Like, the texture would be different, and it would be a really different organism. So,
Okay, go ahead.
He had made a point of saying that the government would distribute the product. Distributing the product requires for you to add in hormones like ethylene for fruit ripening and everything like that. So would that have an effect on the hormones and the things that you already put in your fruit? Like how would that play a role so that it wouldn't ripen when you send it over there? Or would you be having different reservoirs in different parts of the area to make that?
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, I mean, like a government can pick up the licenses fee and give it to subsistence farmers, or they can, you know, commercially grow it, sell it to a company, you know, contract it out. What we're doing is basically we're just having the tool for them to do it, and you know, subcontractors and contractors can take over the distribution and to make sure that it gets where it needs to go. And of course, the government will pick up the tab for most of this.
How much is it to feed one person for like a day? Would you say?
Just one potato.
Just like, well, how much? Well, just one potato. So
Yeah.
someone could live off one potato a day.
Yeah, it
Well,
wouldn't be.
for
It
your-
wouldn't be.
for your
It's
vitamins, not for like calories and stuff.
But
You treat it like
I
it's a
don't know.
multivitamin.
Did you guys know that like? I think I heard this, that bean dip and tortilla chips have all the essential vitamins and nutrients and amino acids. So you could actually just eat bean dip and tortilla chips. That's a.
I mean, there's
I told you we have
The problem with bean dips and tortilla chips is, I mean, for tortilla chips, you need to grow the flour and you need to process it. With this, I mean, you just have it pulled out the ground, put it in a bag, put it in a sack, off you go.
Doesn't like consumption of a lot of potatoes over a period of time, like, won't that make you fat?
Well, I mean,
potatoes are
like we're saying, like, you know, in a disaster and civil strife, I mean, yeah, other things to worry about than just eating potatoes.
Yeah, but I mean, obesity is a whole other problem in itself.
Not in Africa.
I mean, these people are malnourished. I think they can afford to eat some.
And I mean, you could swap out, it's about the same amount of calories as a soda, so you can just swap that out. It's not
You're
much
talking about
of a-
impoverished country though.
Oh,
They're not really
they
drinking soda.
Well, then,
if you're talking about obesity here, then you just swap that out. But in impoverished countries, this is just sort of like one of those.
To help them get back on their feet.
Because like if you're if you don't get like enough of thiamine, then you're gonna have neurological problems. If you don't get riboflavin, then you're gonna have just constantly dry skin, cracked lips, bleeding from your gums. So trying to prevent that.
Is there any way you? Sorry.
This isn't a are you on your toes thing. I was just interested when it said $13 billion satisfies food and sanitation. Is that for the world? Is that per year? And then
Yeah,
is that like in addition to like what's already happening, or like if
I think you're
everybody
really talking
doesn't have
about
that?
so far, not per year.
So did y'all say y'all didn't change any of the genes, y'all just amplified them?
Yeah.
So how exactly did y'all do that? Like what promoters did you change? What regulators did you change? How did you change them? Like did you use a vector system? Like y'all use the Pet Blue vector system, but what about it did y'all change? Or not Pet Blue, Pet 11B or whatever that was.
Yeah, we didn't change the.
So how exactly did you amplify
We amplified
something in that vector to make it create or to make it produce?
We overexpress the genes for various vitamins, and after that we amplified it with the reverse transcription. That's why we amplify the iron. And then we also use the PT, PET one that we are talking about. That's what we used to insert. So we did not actually use anything from outside.
So that one process allowed you guys to amplify all of those
For
vitamins?
individual.
We had to do it
Right,
for
right.
each of the cells of genes.
What he's trying to say is like, you know, in cancer cells, like the ones that are getting chemotherapy, they have the ABC amplification.
Mm-hmm.
We did something similar along those lines. That way we could over amplify it a lot.
Just increase gene copy?
Yeah.
It had to do a lot with the reductases that would trigger the production of it, and if there was more reductase, that would promote more creation of more of the actual vitamin. So a lot of them had to do with reductases, but some of them, like vitamin K1, had to do with eubacterial genes that were actually in the potato. So I think that was a precursor to vitamin K.
So those bacterial genes are already inside
Already in the
potatoes?
potato.
Okay. That's what it was.
Just one question, if you don't mind. During the production of your super pot potato, did you come across any issues with feedback inhibition in the biosynthesis of your vitamins? So if you just increase the number of genes, the regulatory constructs of these synthetic pathways, so if you're making vitamin A, once that cell reaches a threshold of vitamin A is a co-repressor for that promoter. So it doesn't matter how many genes you put there. If you don't modify the promoter, as soon as you get to that threshold, it'll stop producing it. So did y'all do any type of modifications to these regulatory systems to ensure that your gene copies were going to result in an actual increase in your product?
Well, the papers I read, it didn't really go into that, so, and that thing I gave you, our little mock paper,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go into that because I guess it didn't come up in any of the papers I read. So I didn't read a lot.
All right. One more.
Does it matter, like, whether or not the potatoes cook? Because I know if you overcook things, it'll lose nutrients.
Yes, because, well, a lot of the nutrients, most of the vitamins are water soluble, so you don't want to leave it sitting in water because it'll just leach out into the water. But if you're making soup or something, it'd be in the broth. So you just treat it like you don't leave it out in the sun because that will destroy some vitamins. But you just treat it like a regular potato because it will lose some vitamins if you mistreat it.
Granted, all of our studies and stuff did it for raw potatoes.
Yeah.
With the skin still intact as far as the concentrations.
So
The
cooking
vitamins
it,
and stuff like
cooking
that.
it boiled should be okay then.
Do what?
French fries.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how you do it. We didn't compromise with feedback.
That's what takes time.
All right, thank you. All right, if you would please take the next 5 minutes to get with your individual group. Each group together submits one sheet of paper dividing their 3 investments into the 3 groups that you want to invest in.
Is there only one of these? Might be. I don't know. We're supposed to like grade those things. I don't know either.
I don't know either.
Those of you that just went in the last group, how many brochures did y'all pass around? Just one? Oh, okay. So then, yeah. Okay. We should have passed that around.